Today I'm going to be talking about a Kickstarter that I have some very mixed feelings on. The Next Level Miniatures Dragon Hordes Miniatures Volume 1. Now, you might remember that I did a podcast with a representative from this company years back when this was first being launched. I did that because I really was excited about the possibilities of thermoplastic miniatures and productions in the United States. I think in many ways, this Kickstarter showed off a lot of the extreme positives the original idea of producing miniatures in the United States has. However, there are some pretty massive negative aspects to this Kickstarter that I really need to talk about. I want to remind everybody that I was not given any kind of promotional miniatures from this. All the miniatures that I'm going to show you today are miniatures that I bought with my own money. I was not given any preview miniatures for this. And as always, these are my own thoughts and my own evaluation of these miniatures. In my opinion, there are two things that are drastically wrong with this project. Number one, we have the scale issue. The miniatures were promised to be in 28mm scale. As you'll see from the various examples, a lot of them vary wildly in scale. But frankly, a lot of the miniatures are not within the industry standard scale. And I'm not talking about 28mm fantasy with the highly exaggerated features. These miniatures, in some cases, are clearly in 25mm territory. They are not 28mm scale compared to like anything else. And the idea that these are all in the same scale is ridiculous. The Dragon, of course, I think is the biggest issue. Many companies have had a large or huge miniature as the incentive to back a Kickstarter, and all of them, when they show a miniature, people kind of understand what a huge miniature is, according to like what the current standard of the industry is. And this is a large miniature. This is not a huge miniature. I don't understand how anybody could do this and consider this to be a huge miniature and put it on a huge base. It's simply just not big enough. That's just the end of it. Also, if this was a considered idea of, okay, we're going to have everything in 28mm true scale, well, why are the kobolds and goblins so big then? If the idea was to have everything in this very true to 28mm scale, then these would be much, much smaller. They'd be the size of, let's say, the original Reaper kobolds, or even smaller, like the Darkhold kobolds, or any number of kobolds that are made in metal. They'd be tiny, but they're not. They're pretty big. They honestly look more at home on a 28mm base and not a 20mm base for a small miniature. So yeah, it's just the inconsistencies when it comes to that is just pretty telling that this was not a decision made based on, oh, we want everything to be in realistic 28mm scale. Rather, I would assume just from the disparities of the miniatures, and especially what we thought we were going to get, this was a decision made to save material and money. I don't see how you could have this inconsistent scaling with all the miniatures and then say, oh, well, we just wanted to do really small 28mm miniatures. Well, you didn't really do that. You had some miniatures that were clearly in 28mm, almost 28mm heroic scale, which were the smaller size miniatures, and then the medium-sized miniatures, some of those are clearly closer to 25mm. I think the industry standard is, when we talk about 28mm when it comes to fantasy miniatures, I only know about a handful of companies that use pure 28mm for the scale. Pretty much everybody, when they talk about 28mm, they're talking about 28mm fantasy, 28mm heroic, however you want to say it. It's a little bit exaggerated for use on the table and stuff. And a lot of these miniatures just are going to look absolutely tiny on the bases provided. Let's talk briefly about industry practices and industry standards that need to change. The 3D renders, aka just a 3D digital render, which is not the real miniature that people use to promote products. What we see here is a base that makes it look like the huge miniature would be, oh my god, a massively huge miniature. Because if that's a huge base, then wow, that's a big dragon. The only problem is that's not a huge base. The troll, that looks like a large troll. If that was a large base, that's not a large base, and that troll is much smaller than what a lot of people would consider to be a modern troll. You know, and the same for the other things too. Again, I think the plan was to have the miniatures at this scale, but that plan did not happen for whatever reason. And again, the fact that the little goblins and kobolds are still in the massive 28mm heroic scale kind of shows, to me anyways, that this is not like a planned out thing. This honestly seems like they were just saving material cost. And if they weren't, this is the dumbest decision they possibly could have made. Because they're saving a lot of money, but like if you go on their Kickstarter now, literally not everybody, some people are happy with the smaller scale, but you know, I would say roughly about 90% of the comments are incredibly negative because of the scale issues in this Kickstarter. So yeah, the industry standard of showing off digital renders as an indication of what the final product you're going to buy is awful. It needs to go away. Then we need to see examples of what the actual physical product is going to look like so people can make informed decisions. The next big issue that I have is, of course, durability. They were showing off people wiggling around parts. You cannot do that with the final product. The final product is very brittle. Surprisingly brittle. I don't know exactly what went on, considering other companies like Reaper are using the exact same machine. Maybe I'm misunderstanding of what sort of materials that can go into that machine. I merely touched one of the knolls, and its foot completely broke off. And when I was painting, I accidentally dropped one of the hobgoblins on a carpeted floor from a height of about not even 3.5 feet. And it broke completely off from the base, shattering one boot. I was able to repair it, but these are not miniatures that I can just put in a tackle box and take to the game store like other similar products. With Reaper's thermoplastic miniatures, I could easily do that. Durability has always been a huge issue with me because I run games for the general public. And I run games for younger people, and generally speaking, the sort of crowd that I get might not understand how durable or how delicate some miniatures might be, and I would have to actually pack these next level miniatures in a padded case if I want to transport them, because I wouldn't be able to put delicate miniatures like this just in a tackle box, because even just a slight jostle, or like I said, a fall on a carpeted floor will break them. And they have a little thing where it's like the care of your miniatures, and they say like, oh, the larger miniatures might break if you drop them on the floor. Well, the hobgoblin miniature is not a large miniature. It's not very hefty, and yet it broke very easily. And I think that would be the case for the vast majority of these, unfortunately. I have no idea if this is intentional or not, but this little durability warning is not available on their regular website. There's no little section that says, oh, care of your miniatures. As far as I can see, the main website doesn't have this. You only get this website by following the link that you get with your miniatures. So you don't get this warning until after you purchase the miniatures, which is... That's not great policy. You should have this linked prominently on the website so people understand what they are buying. I'm not happy at all with the quality of this. If I would have known about the durability issues, I would have not bothered to spend my money on this, unfortunately. But hey, let's talk about positives here. The level of detail in these miniatures is good. It's very, very good. The design of these miniatures is excellent. These miniatures are clearly much better designed than the WizKid stuff. That's the official stuff. The Hobgoblins look better than any kind of official Hobgoblin that's on the market. It's well designed, very good detail. Now, I would even say that a lot of these actually have a little bit better detail than I've seen in some of the other thermoplastic miniatures on the market. Now, if this comes at a cost to durability, I gotta say that is the deal breaker for me. If I want super detailed miniatures, there are independent people that make amazing metal miniatures made in the USA that I can buy. That if I want details, then I would rather just get a metal miniature. But yeah, the detail's good, the design's good. There were some people complaining about the amount of cleanup that these miniatures required, but I think they're probably just people that are new to the hobby and maybe unfamiliar with cleanup of inexpensive miniatures, because with any miniature in this price range, you're generally going to get a bunch of flash cleanup. The flash on these, on the most miniatures, is just a couple tabs that you can easily clean up with an X-Acto knife. And yeah, it's really not so bad in terms of that. I do want to make a note that the bases that came with the Kickstarter are amazing. These are frankly some of the best produced bases that I have seen recently. I mean, here's the deal. If you want miniatures that are going to be in scale with most older 25mm miniatures, or if you are one of the people that really likes the true 28mm scale miniatures, the medium miniatures and most of the large miniatures are going to be perfect for you. They are going to look weird on standard bases, so you'll have to use whatever bases that people use. I think most people in that scale use 25mm bases, etc. But yeah, these miniatures are going to be perfect for you, and yeah, so please check them out. However, I think judging by what 90% of the people on the Kickstarter page said, most people are not interested in miniatures at this scale. And yes, I do want to note that yes, some of the pictures did show millimeter measurements. However, I still was disappointed with a lot of the larger miniatures. Those didn't have measurements next to them, and with the digital render base, I just assumed they would be similar in scale to the vast majority of miniatures that are on the market right now, and they just aren't. However, even though most of the people were talking about scale as the biggest issue, I honestly think that the much larger issue is the durability. But hey, that's just my personal hang-up. Again, I'm definitely going to use some of these miniatures. The Sturges, for example, are amazing. They look old school. They're great sculpted. I'm going to get some custom clear flight bases for those, and I'm going to definitely use those miniatures. However, all of these miniatures are going to have to be carried around in padded cases, and that's a pain for me. I don't buy miniatures to put them on the shelf. I buy miniatures to put them on the table in public games. That's what I like to do. And yeah, I guess I'm going to have to second guess any future purchase of thermoplastic miniatures. I really want to support stuff that's made in the United States. I want to support stuff that is made locally. I think always buying stuff that is produced overseas, I don't think that's sustainable for a number of reasons, and we really do need to support companies that are trying to do stuff in the United States. Next Level Miniatures is definitely listening to the criticism. They are definitely doing polls, and they're definitely reaching out to the community and figuring out what people want. Now, again, I would suggest that you send out preview miniatures to more people next time, and thus maybe you could have gotten some of this input before you mass-produced these miniatures and sent them out. However, I don't know what the situation is. I would suspect that no amount of feedback would have had a different product go out for this first line. They are promoting a second Kickstarter. I will not be spending my money on that second Kickstarter because of the durability issues, and they haven't really addressed those all that much. I'm a little bit miffed that you have to buy the miniatures before they give you the warning about the durability, and they still have the flexible dwarf miniature GIF on their Kickstarter. I think that is a little bit of false advertisement. It's certainly not the kind of presentation I would like for a project like this. But hey, those are just my feelings about everything. Please let me know what you think about the project. Did you back this project? Are you like me, where like you're happy with about half the miniatures? So it's not like I wasted my money. Half of these miniatures are definitely going to get use. I might sell the rest. I'm sure that there's people out there that want these miniatures in this scale. But again, let me know what you think in the comments below.